The tab control provides multiple containers that can host other controls. Let's go ahead and add a tab control to our designer surface by going to our toolbox in our containers section and dragging and dropping a tab control onto the designer surface. Notice that each tab control can contain a collection of tab pages. There's two parts to each tab page, the tab itself and this little rectangular area below, which is the container for other controls. Let's go ahead and place some other controls on the designer surface of the tab control. Notice that I'm placing the controls on tab page 1's container. When I click tab page 2's tab, that container is covered up in a manner of speaking. It's hidden for the moment, so we can place other controls onto that tab page's container. And so this allows the user to move back and forth between the various pages of our tab control, seeing different information as they tab through. And this allows us as developers to place a lot of information for the user in a fairly compact space. It also allows us to group similar information together on the same tab. If we need to add more tabs, there's a couple of ways we can do this. The easiest way to do it is by using the little quick task arrow in the upper right hand corner of the tab control and selecting Add Tab. Or if we need to remove tabs, we can select the Remove Tab link in the Quick Tasks menu. While this is convenient, we'll probably want to use the Tab Pages property of our tab control most often to configure the tab control. Let's click the little ellipsis button next to the Tab Pages property. This brings open the Tab Page Collection Editor, which allows us to add new tabs, remove tabs, and then configure those tabs with all their properties here on the right-hand side. And most of these properties have to do with the appearance of the tab, at least the ones that we'll probably want to work with, like the text that we want displayed, any images that we want displayed in that tab as well. We can also reorder the tabs by selecting it and then choosing these up and down arrow buttons. Once we've configured our tab pages the way that we want, then we can begin to work with our tab control, place other controls on the various tab pages. As far as the tab control itself, we can change the way that the tabs are displayed by changing the alignment from the default, which is the top, to the bottom, for example, or even to the left-hand side. We may need to adjust each of the tab properties' text direction as well in order to get it to display properly, but it's definitely possible to be configured that way. So those are the basic steps to configuring the tab control for use within our application. However, we can also get programmatic control of the tab pages. We can add tab pages at runtime and add controls to the containers of those tab pages at runtime as well. We can also navigate through the tabs programmatically to force the viewer to see a certain tab at a certain point within our application's code logic. So let's do this. Let's go to the form1.cs within our project. And you can see that I've already set up a sample tab control with 2 pages, and we have a number of buttons. Let's run the example just to see what it does. The first thing we'll do is click the Add a Tab page, and notice that we've added a tab control and placed a text box control on that tab as well. And we do this all programmatically in code. We also have the ability to move backwards and forwards with the tabs. When we get to the end and we click the forward button, it will start over from the beginning. And the same is true in reverse. Let's see how we did this. First of all, we'll start off with the Add a Tab button. This is fairly straightforward. We already noted that each tab control has a collection of pages called tab pages, and we're merely using one of the overloaded versions of the add method to create a new tab. In this particular version of the add method, we're going to give our tab a programmatic name called tab3 so that we can access this tab from code later on in this example. We'll also give it a name that will be displayed visually to the user. And as you can see, we have a number here which represents the index of an image that's been pre-configured in our sample image list control. As you can see, we added a number of images, and we're going to use the third one to display in the tab, or rather, the image with an index of 3. Now that we've added a new tab, the next thing that we'll set out to do is dynamically create a new text box. So we're creating a new instance of the text box control in this first line. We're setting its name, left, top, and width properties. And these will be relative to the top left corner of the tab pages container. And then all we're doing is referencing our tab page, tab 3, that we created in this first line of code, getting to its controls collection and using its add method to add an instance of our text box. In the next example, we demonstrated how to move back and forth between the previous tab and the next tab. So as you can see, we have our previous tab button underscore click event with some code written. The first thing that we do is determine which tab that we're currently on, which is currently selected by the user. If that current tab is 0, in other words, if it is the first tab, then we'll need to move to the end of the line. So we will get the tab count and subtract 1. The reason we subtract 1 is so that we can get an index value for the last tab within our tab pages collection. If we're not on the first tab, then we want to determine what the selected index is and move to the previous tab by subtracting 1. The same is true, but in reverse, for our next tab button underscore click event, where we are determining which tab we're currently on. If it happens to be the very last tab and we want to go to the next tab, then we will hard code it to go to the first tab, select tab sub 0. If we're not on the last tab, then we'll merely find the current tab we're on and move then to the next tab by adding 1 to that value. So in closing, tabs are great whenever you need to display a lot of information to a user, and the user doesn't have to be able to view all that information at the exact same time. It also requires that you can group that information in some logical container and be able to describe those values or that information in 1 or 2 words or in an icon. And if you can, then a tab control is a nice way to organize your form's content in a very compact area.